Can't hear you.
Lost me.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Pinto here at Phoenixville Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you to the next presentation in our Community Services Spotlight series. Today, we're happy to welcome Joe Myers, Director of Prevention and Education for the Crime Victims Center of Chester County. Crime Victims Center provides free, immediate, and confidential crisis response and compassionate support to children and adults impacted by sexual violence and all other crime. Joe, thanks for taking the time today to tell us more about the services offered by the center.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. I'm really excited to be here. And thanks everybody who's watching this at home. I'm very grateful for everybody who tuned in today. So now I will share my screen and show you all a little bit about who we are at Crime Victims Center. So like you heard, Crime Victims Center is Chester County's victim advocacy agency. We serve victims of crime, their families, anyone impacted by crime and violence all throughout Chester County. So that includes people who live here, who work here, or who were victimized here in Chester County. Now, there is a sibling organization just like us that serves every county here in Pennsylvania. So if any of you are library users who are coming in from outside of the county, we absolutely have resources, connections, and different folks we can connect y'all with. So a little bit of backstory about the Crime Victims Center. CVC began back in 1973. What happened was a bunch of activists in the community got together because they noticed that when a victim of sexual violence reported their crime to the police would investigate the crime, do their work and their duty, but there weren't a lot of services offered to victims of sexual violence. These were folks who recognized that anybody who was impacted in this way needed help healing, needed help processing, needed support along their healing road. So these activists became the first advocates for victims' rights here in Chester County. The right to be notified, the right to be involved in the process, the right to have their voice lifted up and heard. Now, it didn't take long for these activists to recognize that it was not just victims of sexual assault, but victims of all crime. So our original name was the Rape Crisis Council of Chester County. And there's been some other names throughout the years until we finally landed on who we are today, the Crime Victims Center of Chester County. We still are Chester County's Rape Crisis Center, offering immediate confidential crisis response to individuals who are victimized of sexual assault. But we actually help with any type of crime. We talk about, a lot of times we use the term personal injury crime, but really any type of crime, assault, violence, harm that can come upon a person, right? Regardless of who the perpetrator is, regardless of their relationship, regardless of what's going on, we have services that we can offer. I always like to tell folks in the community that no matter what type of harm befalls someone, there is someone at CVC who is either an expert at helping or who is about to become an expert in helping. We've been doing this work for more than 40 years, and we are here to keep it going. So up on the screen, there are different types of crime that we help with, right? Sexual assault, burglary, robbery, folks who are harmed through DUI or consumer fraud, any type of abuse from elder, child, interpersonal violence, relationship violence, up to and including homicide. I tell folks the people we've helped are of all ages, from the elderly to the newborns. We help people who deal with whatever crisis in their life may be. For some, it's because they've lost a loved one or someone assaulted them. For others, it's issues in their relationships, questions, problems they're having with a partner. We help out little kids who deal with bullying, or folks who, just have that kind of personal interaction that's harmful or problematic to them. So we help people of all ages with all different things. Whatever a crisis means to a person, there's someone at Crime Victim Center who can help them or connect them with the resource that they need. So what I'm going to do next is kind of do a little in-depth walkthrough in which how folks start interacting with Crime Victim Center. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our direct services that we offer the community. These services are for folks who have been victimized themselves, know someone who's been victimized, either a friend or family member, community member, or offered to whole communities. So we know that when harm happens, it doesn't just impact the direct victim or their family, but impacts everyone around them. So we offer these services to everyone who comes to our doors or to our hotlines or interact with on any way. I'm going to describe a lot of services here. Some of our clients take every piece of this service and use as much as they can because that's what they need for their healing road. Some folks take bits and pieces. Some folks find out about us, say, thanks, I'll talk to you if I need you, and move it along. Our role at Crime Victim Center is to empower the people who come in contact with us to shape their own healing journey, which means every path that someone takes that they decide is right for them, we want to support them in any way that we can. So as you hear these services, know that it doesn't matter if the crime happened yesterday or years ago, there's a service that we can offer to support someone. So we like to talk about what happens when a crime occurs, right? Now we sometimes group folks into two different categories, a non-reporting victim and a victim who reports. So a non-reporting victim is usually somebody who has not reported to the police yet. So we may come into contact with these folks through our community programs, through our outreach efforts, through our hotline. Folks will routinely call our hotlines. Or knock on our door right in Westchester, right? Or in our satellite locations in Phoenixville or Kennett Square, Oxford, all these different spaces. So sometimes folks just come up to us, hear about us, and say, I am a person who needs support on something, either for myself or a friend. The first thing we do is we try to offer that immediate support, right? We explain their reporting options, right? If they are interested in reporting to the police, reporting to another body, we'll talk them through what that could look like and how we can support them. Whether they choose to report to the police or not, it's not necessary for them to continue working with Crime Victim Center. We are a community-based nonprofit organization, so we can provide supports even if somebody reported to the police and the crime never went through, like maybe there was a non-guilty verdict or the police didn't have enough evidence to investigate. We still have a ton of services that we offer, and that includes things like ongoing counseling, information and referral. So we like to be a one-stop shop for our clients, connecting them to resources all over the county. So if our clients are facing housing or food insecurity, we like to connect them with the folks who can give them support on that, right? We spend a lot of our time building up partnerships so that we can have that help for people. And the other thing is personal advocacy, like being a supportive ear for our clients so that, we can empower them to make the choices they need to do or they want to do to shape their healing road. So that means they might have to step up and speak up for themselves at work or with their family in other spaces. And we'd like to be a support for them through that process. So that's what happens if someone has not or chooses not to report to the police. There's going to be some other services that I'm going to mention soon that are also going to be offered to them. But if someone goes straight to the police, so instead of coming through Crime Victim Center, they make a report to the police. And we like to say, depending on the severity of the crime, the police will call the Crime Victim Center. So for homicides, for serious assaults, for sexual assaults, if somebody goes through the police or through the hospital system, they reach out directly to Crime Victim Center to bring in an advocate to support that person. So that's where our 24-hour crisis response comes in. We have two 24-hour hotlines that are always available to folks for any type of crisis that they may need. We will provide counseling crisis counseling over the phone or at the scene of a crime or where that client is. So some of our clients in our second bullet point, you'll see they may go to a hospital. So if a client experienced a physical assault or a sexual assault, our advocates go right to the hospital to offer support and be there with them if the client so chooses to have us, right? So we can be there in the room with them while they're being taken care of, be there as a support person, be there to help elevate their voice, say like speed things up, slow things down, help them with whatever they think they might need, making sure that the client's voice is never lost in that process. For those of you who've been to the hospital for even routine things, it can be a very stressful situation. So to have a person there who is your person, who has your back, who wants to make sure you're taken care of and who can help navigate that system for you can be a weight off of one's shoulders so that this client can focus strictly on themselves. Now, again, if a client chooses to report to the police, our advocates will go with them for that police interview. We've spent years building relationships with police departments all over Chester County so that we can, be in the room with them, be there to help navigate that system. Like the relationships we build with officers, departments, chiefs allows us a lot of space to make sure that, these officers are thinking about the victims, right? It crosses their mind. They're making sure they're doing this in a trauma-informed and safe way, because it not only makes the police jobs easier, but it makes the healing road for these clients happier and safer, right? And like I said, you don't have to be the direct person who is impacted by a crime to be offered our services. We always talk about the ripple effect of crime, right? But throwing a ripple effect is like crime is if you throw a rock into a pond, it ripples outwards. So where the rock splashes, right, has that immediate impact, but all over the pond is there more. So we travel to spaces to help family members, to help communities, to help school members, right? We help all different types of folks who may need support through, healing, right? Healing takes support, and we like to be a part of that process for folks if they want us. Now, if someone goes through the criminal justice process, if there's an arrest made, if a trial is to occur, or if there's some type of legal action to happen, our advocates, the person who is there for the police interview or the hospital visit, will be the person who will be with you for that legal process. There's courts all over Chester County. Here in Westchester, we have the Justice Center, which is, a big court system, right? It's a big, imposing building that can absolutely be intimidating to navigate, especially if somebody is going to court to talk about something harmful that happened to them, or to face the person who may have harmed them. That can be incredibly intimidating. So we make sure that we have advocates who can be there through that entire process to explain things, to communicate, to be that bridge between, police officers, the district attorney's office, the court system, right? Making sure that clients know when to show up, when they have to be there, when they don't have to be there, making sure they always have a friendly face and a person who can navigate them. So that can be things like interviews with district attorneys or assistants, preliminary hearings, pre-trial hearings, all of the things that happen like through the entire trial, all the way up to pleas and sentencing, right? So if a person is found to be guilty and a sentence is being made, even later on appeals or on hearings after someone has been arrested, such as parole hearings, right? Our advocates can be there for these clients. So they always have a person, right? A person who can be there for them, right? Our advocates specialize in this. They're in and out of the courthouse every day, making sure that people are taken care of. Yeah. So one thing that we do get to make sure that a victim's voice is heard in the court system is through a victim impact statement, right? We assist victims in coming up with their statement, right? We are a part of the sounding board. We never write the statement for them, but this is an opportunity in which during the sentencing, a client can have their voice be heard by the judge, by the court, so that it can be taken into consideration for the sentencing of the person who harmed them, right? We explain what this process is. We help them to organize their thoughts and feelings, and we become that like workshop for them, help them listen. We listen to what they want to say and we help them organize their thoughts. And then we are a person there with them for support if they choose to if they are able to read it to the court. Sometimes on a rare occasions, we have been asked to read it for clients who don't feel safe or comfortable standing in front of the courtroom or who are otherwise unable, but we are there to make sure to help them and feel empowered to do it for themselves. Now, when it comes to child victims, we often become a very close advocate for them, because when children are victimized, there's a special place in Chester County called the Child Advocacy Center that's based out of the courthouse that we have advocates who work specially with children to make sure their needs are taken care of, that their families' needs are taken care of, and that we have specialized detectives and other folks here in the county who make sure that if it's a child abuse case, the child is taken care of in a very specific manner so that it's investigated properly and that children have a lower likelihood of being re-traumatized through that. So that's something I always like to point out. Like, it's not just adult victims. A lot of these things that we talk about here sound very convenient or helpful for adults, but we also have huge supports for children in Chester County. Now, that's a lot of stuff with the court system, right? There's a ton of services. We provide this and many, many more, right? Anything that has to do with like, we help with protection from sexual violence orders. We help with protection from abuse orders with some folks. We do provide all different types of service and connect people with all different types of services that they may need through this process. But the healing road, whether somebody chooses to go through court or not, doesn't end there. So that's why we have supportive counseling at the Crime Victim Center. All of our counselors are master's level licensed professional counselors who provide many different modalities or strategies of counseling for our clients. So all of these services that I've mentioned so far are offered to everyone free of charge, including our counseling. Our counseling has no time limit, so we don't have like a session limit. We don't have anything that says you can only come so many times. We are very victim and client focused so that we make sure we are providing for the needs of every client. So again, this is for people who report or who do not report. It's for significant others, groups, individuals, anybody who's impacted by crime or violence. Our counselors do all different types of work to help them along the healing road. The healing road doesn't look the same for any two people. So we like to make sure we have a lot of different options for folks. Sometimes these folks come to our office in Westchester. Right now, we're doing all virtual counseling. So on the computer, helping folks like that. And we're also we travel all over the county. We provide counseling in schools when children request it, when it's most convenient for them. We provide them at many of our satellite sites so that people are taken care of. We do all of this. Now, all of this is done by a team of CVC staff members, our advocates, our counselors, all folks who come through Crime Victim Center do a little bit of crisis counseling and support for people out there, because we always want to make sure that we are looking out and taking care of our community. One really great service that we offer is helping our clients sign up for Pennsylvania SAVIN, which stands for the Statewide Automated Victim Information and Notification System. If one of our clients has an offender who ends up in the prison system, they have a right to be notified of any changes in that person's status. So that might mean if they are transferred, if they're released, if they pass away in prison, a victim has a right to know for their peace of mind. They have a right to know that while that person is under state supervision, they are monitored and taken care of. So that means this helps prevent our clients from bumping into their offender, right? From this person being released without their knowledge. So we like to make sure that we sign them up and help them out for this notification system. And then we can provide support if there are changes, right? If an offender is being released after a sentence, we like to make sure that we are there to support that client through any memories or re-traumatizing experiences they may be having. Now, we also offer a victims compensation assistance program. This program comes through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. We have an advocate who specializes in doing this work, right? It is her sole role to navigate these systems to try and get our clients compensated for harm that may have come to them. I can't even pretend to tell you what is and isn't always covered under this. Anybody who's navigated a state system knows that there can be struggles, there can be loops or like hoops a person has to jump through. And we have an advocate specifically for this because she knows all of the moves. She knows how to work with folks to get them what they need. And then also knows the resources for where a system may fall short, where we can fill in gaps with that and get folks support. So when folks are harmed, they may have the opportunity to be compensated for what happened to them. So that's a lot of our direct services. I can't even pretend to tell you that's everything because I could give this conversation tomorrow and remember something else that we do. We try to be a one-stop shop for folks who experience harm. We want to make sure that we can be there for them and provide for them all different types of support, connect them to resources, whatever it is that helps re-stabilize their life. Being the victim of crime or violence or harm knocks a person off kilter. So we like to do our best to provide a support and some empowerment to regain that balance. So, oh, sorry, Mark.
I was just going to ask a question. Has CVC seen an increase of typical of different types of crimes over the pandemic that you've been assisting victims with?
I don't think we've seen an increase of anything in particular. Things have been like we saw a drop early on in the pandemic in some of our hotline calls, but then it spiked right back up and things seemed to normalize. I think there was there was a time where I think folks may not have been reaching out for help or support or even reporting crimes to the police because of the pandemic. I do think that once the new-ish normal set back in, folks felt more comfortable reaching out for support and for help. And then once people got used to their roles. So one thing we know is like in Chester County, mandated reports of suspected child abuse were down. And that's true in most places nationwide. And that's because the people who make the most mandated reports are educators or teachers. And it's harder to gauge those situations virtually. We've seen, I believe, a rebound in that as teachers have started to engage in their, continue doing the incredible work that they're doing and started paying attention to those specific things. And now as schools are welcoming students back in, we've seen more and more, educators who are able to identify warning signs and make some reports. The courts also slowed down, like there's been a couple shutdowns, and with social distancing protocols in the court system, we've seen a slowdown in trials. But that being said, we're still doing them. Our staff is still in the courtroom. They're still in the CAC helping with children. They're still in the hospitals and at the police departments doing what they can to help folks out. Cool.
So your caseloads are pretty manageable right now?
I would not say that. No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay,
I would say.
Okay, what would people expect then to see as a turnaround time or something?
Oh yeah, so like the crisis response is still immediate, right? Like our advocates are still doing that immediate work. We haven't slowed down in that response. But what we will see is like, even if an arrest was made and a trial is coming up, it may not be like, we've seen a lot of trials get continued, so they get moved or pushed down the road a little bit, because there's a limited number of space and judges and folks who can do stuff, so there's a bit of a backlog. But our advocates, when they're not taking new cases, are working with the clients that they have to make sure that they still feel supported and taken care of, because with the backlog of things, it can leave a person feeling in like a middle ground, like on like kind of like what's going to happen next, and we try to make sure we're supporting through that process. Yeah, those are great questions, Mark. So the work that my team does is our prevention and education work. We go out all over Chester County to engage the community in building safer and healthier spaces. We do this by addressing risk factors and promoting protective factors of positive spaces to address and prevent violence, right? We work with schools, community groups, different professional spaces like the one here at the library, to try and engage our community as much as possible. Like our hope is that by increasing everybody's awareness, by increasing everybody's skills to identify, to call out or prevent harmful behaviors, we can reduce the amount of violence that occurs in our community. So all of our prevention educators, we do things based on evidence-based and based on theory-based, working with folks of all ages, from pre-K through adults, to kind of just show how everybody has a role in keeping our communities safe. So they're all experienced public speakers and facilitators. All of our prevention educators, all of CVC's staff is trained as sexual assault counselors, which gives us confidentiality under Pennsylvania state law for all victims of sexual violence. And all of our team are not only trained mandated reporters, but trainers to train others in their mandated reporting role. So we like to make sure that we engage the community as best as possible to help folks out in many different ways. The last thing I usually like to talk about are our two 24-hour hotlines. So Crime Victim Center offers these hotlines every day of the week, every night of the year, every holiday. There is a person on the other end of that hotline. Our hotlines are staffed by CVC staff and volunteers who are a wonderful and incredible group of people who dedicate and donate their time to supporting people and victims here in Chester County. We have an incredible crew of volunteers who do the work of victim advocates with the care and precision that our staff does. We generally offer volunteer trainings a couple times a year because we recognize CVC's staff is only 30 something people, but there are thousands of people in Chester County, which means we're not always going to be the person who identifies with every single potential victim. So we like to kind of get support from all over the county, from folks in different spaces, from different places, with different levels of experience of all different ages and backgrounds. So if anyone is ever interested in volunteering with Crime Victim Center and becoming an advocate or supporting the work that we do, we're always looking for more and more support from our community. We can't do it alone, right? And every person can benefit from learning because all of us have been impacted by the harm of another person in some way, right? All of us know someone who's been hurt, has supported them, has been a friend to them, has helped them. So we want to make sure we can be engaging with everybody to make our community safer. We're recording this on May 4th today, and we are 4 days into Crime Victim Center's Race Against Violence. It is our 26th annual Race Against Violence. It is a month-long virtual event. Traditionally, it has been a 5K race or a 1-mile walk, but over the last couple years, the last 2 years, we've changed it to a completely virtual event where we encourage community members to participate in any way that they want. So that means playing hopscotch, going for a swim, throwing a ball around, doing a dance, whatever it is. We always like to encourage folks to, kind of participate and share outwards that they're kind of joining us in this effort. We have a race website. Our website is www.cvcofcc.org. And under our events and race tab, y'all can register for our race for free. It's a pay what you want model because we want to make sure anybody can join up. For anybody who pays more than $10, you're going to receive a free CVC wristband, which I have right here too, which it's really neat. It's a piece of athletic apparel that stores your keys. It's got a little zipper pouch in it. So I always like to plug that while I have the opportunity. But we're always looking for folks who want to be involved in any way, whether it's supporting us through donations, through our fundraisers like this race, or for people who want to engage and help out their community in any way that we want. Or if you're a community organization, a group of people, a group of families or parents who are like, we want to bring the message of what CVCs does to our community, our group, we want to be involved with you. We want to be in any way that we can to help out the community. So that's my entire long conversation about what CVC does. I'm sure I missed stuff because we do so many different things every single day, but it's a good list, I think.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks so much. You guys really do incredible and important work, and it's good to know that an organization like CVC is there. So thanks for the time today, Joe, and don't leave. I'm going to stop the recording in a second. And thanks everyone for tuning in to today's presentation.